Howdy.
Testing.
Howdy.
Test.
All right, cool. Let me grab a swig of water. All right, so what we need to do next is figure out the back panel. And what I need to do that, I kind of want to miter fold this together to take an accurate measurement. And to miter fold it, essentially I need to tape all these joints together and then be able to flip all four of these pieces together and kind of fold it together to make the actual TV stand. So what I want to do is, one, bring up the height of this bench perfectly in plane with this other bench. You guys can see here she's slightly below the height, but luckily this bench has the ability to be raised and lowered. So what I'm going to do is actually raise that bench up. Hey, how you doing? Thank you for joining in. What we're going to do is actually raise up that bench to get it to be in plane with my main bench, and then I can start flipping everything. Well, start taping everything, and I can go into the miter folding process. I also need to flip these around. I think I actually want that side at the very end. And this also might be a little ambitious. I might not be able to miter fold all these pieces. I might only be able to do 3 of them and then kind of fit in the last one at the very end. But we're going to see what I can get done. So I'm going to start all the way down here. And the first thing I need to do is bring these bench tops in line with each other. So this one needs to come up. Actually, I don't think you guys have actually seen this, so let me bring you guys around here to see it. Howdy. So if you guys don't know, I have 2 Polk style benches inside the top. That one up front and this one here. It has a jack mounted underneath the bench top, which allows these benches to be raised and lowered. A simple handle crank right there. Probably not the best position for you guys, but there's a gap here. I can stick my finger in. And it goes to raise the bench top to where that goes away. Oh, this is the wrong one. And right there we do. One of those beautiful things with having adjustable height benches. So theoretically, if I ever needed to, I can bring all my benches together. Like I'm building a really big project or something like that, I can actually line up both of my benches on the outside of this one, raise them all up to the same height, and assemble pretty much anything. But all right. Well, as I tape stuff up, let's actually start the camera way down here. and we'll move the camera back as we work. So the goal of getting a really crisp miter fold is one, your panels being perfectly aligned thickness wise right here, and also right here on the edge. The first piece I'm going to apply onto one of the pieces, get it almost right there to the edge, press down, and then pull to create tension on the tape and help pull this joint right here together. I'm not going for perfection on this one right here because I plan to actually take this apart. But when I actually go into my actual miter fold, I'll probably use packing tape so it'll hold better than painter's tape. Also, not sure if a miter fold of something this long will even work. And there's another issue. Typically with a miter fold, you'll be folding it, bringing off the edge of your bench, kind of folding up like columns and stuff like that. But in this case, this whole panel has to come and fold off this corner. This panel, though, is longer than the distance of the height of the bench to the floor. So I'm not going to be able to fully fold it down off the end. I might be able to lift it up, and we're going to see what I can do. It may or may not work. I wish I actually had my wider tape inside. We're going to put plenty of tape on these joints to try to hold them together. So yeah, I typically would use like a clear packing tape because it has more of a stretch to it. So I actually then run the piece right here along the joint this way, creates a nice hinge. So as you fold it, it kind of compresses. But this tape again is it's not really wide enough to do that. But we'll slap one here anyway. And then we're going to work our way down and pretty much tape up this whole entire joint. All right, let's see if this can be folded up. I can probably bring the camera right here. And then again, as you get to the corner, you can fold one piece down. But again, the issue will end up being that joint right there, strictly because how long this panel is and the distance between the top of the bench to the floor. And I guess the fact that I got a bunch of stuff sitting right here, let me move some of this. No, and just cut the tape. Oh, just a little too big and slightly ambitious to do by yourself. It probably could have been done in sections though. So yeah, I think what I'm actually going to do, my actual glue up, I'm probably just going to leave the bottom panel off. Let me see if I can go ahead and tape that side and flip this back over. With a second person, it probably would have been possible. With a second person, I probably would have just flipped it end for end. All right, let me actually slide this over and bring the camera around to the front side. And can I zoom out? Kind of, sort of. Let's see if I cut these dividers. Let's see, those all check out. And then let me grab one of the door panels. Again, not playing to the proper thickness. So I can't even put the full door panel in there, it'd be too wide. But I can still put it on each side just to get a visual. Those would be the doors. And what I'm going to do with the doors, I'm going to cut them to where they come just past this divider and then miter back around. So that'll create the handle so you can actually open the doors. The grain path actually wraps directly across from these two boards. So when the doors get cut to the proper size, I think it's going to look pretty nice. And on the outside, none of this has been stained. So it looks pretty boring out here. But the whole entire inside has been stained. Oh, can't rotate the camera. Has already been stained. It does need a little bit of touch up, but I think it's going to come out looking pretty good. That's the general idea. So with this setup now, though, I can pretty much take a measurement on the back panel. I can cut that out of 1/2-inch plywood, and I'm going to use a French cleat to actually hang this, so I can come out with the French cleat, the back panel, all is going to go in here, and then I can start running these door panels through the planer to get them to the proper thickness, so they reveal and end up being perfectly flush with the front side of the cabinet panel. And yeah, so that's the game plan. Then the first thing I want to do, though, is figure out this back panel so I can rip and cut that, get that one stained so that can be sitting off to the side so I can actually go into this actual glue up here to get all this put together. And another thing I'm debating on, when I made these 3 panels for the top, bottom, and sides, 3 of them, the top panel and the 2 side panels, this mahogany strip lines up. The bottom one, it doesn't. So I'm debating on actually flipping it. Something about when you're actually looking at the cabinet from the outside, it looks better if this strip wraps all the way around. Whenever you open it, though, the one panel that you're going to see is the bottom and the sides. So I'm debating if I want to flip the whole thing over to make it look better when you're looking at the inside of the cabinet, or make it look better when you look at the outside. Because on the outside, that mahogany runs continuous on all 3 sides. It's just the bottom one, the placement of the strip of mahogany is slightly off. Well, that bottom strip of mahogany is a different width, which led these panels to being slightly off because all this is made from, reclaimed scraps. But I think all in all, we are getting there. Let me smoke a cigarette, and then I'm going to step back there to take measurements for this back panel. And then get that cut to size. And for the most part, all these miters are closed up. This one can be tighter. That's good. And yeah, that's how I'm going to make sure that the backside is actually to the proper dimensions, is by taking a look at all the miters and making sure everything's closed up. I just adjusted this one. So I can take my measurements top and bottom and then up and down, and I can add the depth of my dado to get my overall back panel dimension. And we are looking at 49 16th heavy. And then this dado looks like 5/16 of an inch. Well, just under 5/16 of an inch. So I'm gonna add a quarter all the way around. So 49 16th plus a half inch is 49 9/16. And then this is 15 13/16. So 15 13 plus a half inch. The back and 49 16th. So we got 49 1/16 plus a half inch. We have 49 9/16, and then we have 15 13 plus a half inch. That's 16 1/4, 16 5/16. Correct. Because quarter and quarter, then you carry the 16th. So 16 5, 49 9, and that is the dimensions of my back panel. 16 5, 49 9. Ooh. Probably can put this up here. And let's turn that toward the material. And then we're going to cut it to 16 5. We'll rip it to 16 5 first. And then we'll go over to the crosscut sled. 16 and 5/16. So I need to slide that box back just a little bit. This is just in line with the fence. That should be good. Get the right hose hooked up. Oh, that's just too big for my crosscut sled. Let's see, I could have grabbed the bigger one, but that's buried up under a bunch of stuff. Can the miter saw do 16? I can do 14. Fuck it. I don't remember why, but this sled likes to bind up in air. And this the runner itself, but it'll make the cut. I'll address that later. Wait, 49 and 9/16. I do need to address this sliding ability because I don't want it to be that stiff. Let's see if we nailed it. Beautiful. Beautiful. Now let's see if this actually fits inside of that cabinet box. And if she does, we can sand this up and stain it. Let's swing this back around to this side. Let's see, fold that one back down. That's not what I wanted. Okay, thank God I didn't ding that up any. That actually looks like it's going to be exactly what I want. That just needs to get stained black, and then that will fit in there. And if you guys remember, I had planned for this section right here to work out with a piece of 3/4 inch plywood. So I plan to actually add a French cleat right here, and the French cleat is going to end up perfectly flush with the backside of the cabinet. So by having the French cleat that runs the full length across here, that's going to be my mounting solution to get this hanging up on the wall. Awesome. All right. Saw that side panel back off, pull this out, sand this up a little bit, get a couple coats of stain on the front side. Not really too worried about back here because you're not going to see the back side of the cabinet once it's sitting up on the wall. And then we do got to make up a French cleat. I think it actually wouldn't hurt. So go ahead and pencil line. My debate is, should I add the French cleat before I miter fold everything? So again, the cabinet isn't perfectly square right now. Well, it could be. I doubt it is. So like if I add my French cleat here now with this perimeters, it might rack left or right. So I might actually wait to attach it, but I want to actually clamp and glue it though easier to clamp and glue it before it's put into the cabinet carcass. So what I probably should do is measure these diagonals. This one is 52 5/8. This one's 52 11/16. It's actually not bad. So it's a 16th inch out of square right now. And that's probably just because these miters aren't really pulled together. So that's actually not bad. So I can take a measurement across here and cut my French cleat. And let me make some new lines. So when I attach my French cleat, it's where it needs to be. And when I cut the French cleat, I'm probably actually going to cut it just a little bit smaller than this opening. Because again, I wouldn't want to put this together and it stops the sides or anything else from closing in. But looking at this miter, that's one's fully seated. And this miter here is fully seated. So this dimension right there shouldn't change at all. Shouldn't. And again, we had 49 1/16. I just want to mark this as 49 heavy. So I'll cut me a piece of 3/4 inch plywood and make my French cleats for up here. And I'll probably go at least like 3 inches, 3-4 inch cleat, just to make this one nice and beefy so I can throw staples and glue and kind of get it attached firmly to this back panel. Like I said, I made the reference marks for the top. But I should probably, again, just to be safe, go this full length so there's no alignment issues when I actually mount the cleat itself. All right, let me slide this back off. And now we just need to sand this front side. Let's see, now I also need to grab a piece of 3/4 inch plywood that I want to use for that cleat. I got a couple pieces over here though, so I can rip that down whenever. What I want to do first is get this sanded and stained, and then I can switch back over to cutting that, and then I'll switch back to doing the doors. Will probably be my order of operations. Don't need this crosscut sled anymore. All right. So before I actually stain this, I do want to go ahead and glue that piece to the backside because when I shoot my staples and stuff through this, I was planning to shoot staples from the cleat into this piece of 1/2 inch plywood, but this is thinner. Staples will hold better coming from this into that piece, and I figured better to stain it afterwards. That way, any of the indentions from the staples can get filled with stain. I'm also going to try to line up my staples with my dividers here, so that way, when the back panel is installed, most of it's hidden. It's the goal, anyway. So let me actually rip my piece of 3/4 inch plywood, and we'll make our French cleat to attach to the back side of our back panel. We'll get the French cleat installed, and then we'll go into then we'll get our French cleat installed, and then we'll go into staining our back panel and doing our doors. That's probably the best place for the camera right now. I think I'm gonna rip this piece to like I want like at least a 4-inch cleat, so I don't know. Let's just call it 8 inches. Is this gonna slide all the way to the camera? No, it's gonna be fine. Typically for infeed, I would use my thickness planer as the infeed for the table saw. But right now I cannot because my table saw recently got lowered to the ground. And my thickness planer is too tall. But luckily I do have infeed and outfeed rollers. But 8-foot plywood comes all the way to the back of this door. Ooh, there's a spider up here. Oh, he dodged it. You guys about to watch me do battle with a giant spider. So hopefully I got the spider inside the hose and it is comfortably buried inside the sawdust inside of my vacuum cyclone, or it's on its way to crawl back out. That's going to haunt me for days. Let's make sure I'm not about to stick my hand right into him. Whew. All right, the next thing I need to do is actually tilt the blade over to 45. All right, that's at 45. Now, this piece of plywood has a nice little cup or a bow in it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it to its final length. So I'm not trying to fight against this bow the whole time I'm running it through the table saw. And that final dimension is 49. The back panel, the space is 49 and a 16th. We're just going to go even 49. Oh, I didn't know you couldn't put this in there before it was tilted. Nope, I'll have to reset that again. All right, let's look over at the miter saw and get this cut. Oh, you guys can already see the miter saw. Flip up these flip stops. And now this piece still has a cup in it, but it's not as bad as the one with the cup that was in that full 8-foot piece. And now that our blade is set to 45, I just need to get the blade dialed into the sensor of this piece and run it on through. Let's see, the center would be 4 inches, but the blade would enter in 3/4 of an inch past that. So it'll be 4 3/4 should be where that blade enters. And that should give me this panel divided in two. And now what you get is when you attach this piece to the back panel and then this piece to the wall, when they slide together, the opposing 45 lock in and hold this onto the wall. Cool. We have the French cleats. And we have the back piece. I just need to glue and staple that to the back. So I do need the idea or a rough idea of where these back panels are. It's like 15 3/4 for one side. And 15 3/4 from the other. This is going to sit in there 1/4 of an inch. So if I just mark this at 16, and when I shoot my staples through the front at 16, they should line up with the dividers. I'm only planning to put like 3 or 4 staples in there. So it's not going to be a ton. And if I do this right, it'll hopefully be hidden by my dividers. I will be throwing like 2 on the very ends. But again, the inside of the cabinet's going to be black. I'm going to be staining over all this afterwards. So it shouldn't be too bad. And then this just needs to be glued and stapled in there. Let me hook up my air compressor and the staple gun. And for 3/4 inch plywood, I want like 1 inch staples. These staples are 1.5 inches. These ones are 1/2 inch. I got a couple loose ones, but not quite enough. Well, this might be enough. So these are Yeah, 1-inch staples. That's enough. I remember the staples being a pain in the dick. Oh, I need to get another stapler because that's annoying. If I can't reliably shoot staples without jamming. Oh, that was all the staples. I got some 1-inch trim head screws that I might throw through here just to reinforce it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That way, all the fasteners or any holes on the front side, divider and divider, staples on the back side. And again, if I have to, I can take a 1-inch screw, trim head screw, and go through right here, there, and in the middle just to reinforce this a little bit more. But once that glue sets up, I think it'll be plenty strong. What did my brother do with the nail pullers? I had to angle those staples to keep them from blowing through, but of course, one did blow through. All right, now I can go ahead and stain this front panel. Actually, let me see if I have. These are 1-inch cabinet head screws. I would rather these go through the face. I want the trim head screws. I think those are inside of my truck, and if they are, that's something I'll grab tomorrow. And I think they are in the truck. Yeah. Essentially, though, if you guys don't know, these are trim head screws. Really, really small head. It's about the equivalent of using like a finish nail, 15 gauge nail or so, as far as the hole it leaves. So very non-intrusive, but again, will hold this just fine. I just don't know where they are off the top of my head. Hoping I just found some 1.25-inch staples, but I think I need true 1 inches for this. Yeah, I think even if I angled these ones, I give it a shot. Let me see what happens when I angle these ones. Oh. Actually, I think I got. Okay, these are 2-inch nails. Never mind. So yeah, keep this angled fairly steeply. I think that's going to be nice and solid, especially once that glue dries. Essentially, how that's going to work is, with this being the back panel for the cabinet, when this cleat right here is mounted onto the wall, as you pick up the TV stand, they'll slide together and nest. And now, if you just lifting up the cleat, the whole cabinet is hanging right there. And with this recess that's around the back side of the cabinet being exactly 3/4 of an inch, the bottom protrusion of the cabinet will be resting firmly up against the wall to keep it from racking. So, all good there. I just need to stain this, and then I can go into the door panels. I need a hammer. There's one staple sticking up. That nice and flush. All right. We're going to sit this on the other bench and stain this up. And then we'll head back to the thickness planer to get these door panels milled up. And then tomorrow, since the back panel will be all stained, we can go into our final assembly and get this whole thing put together. Whew. I probably will have to get another jar of stain. This one's about halfway gone. I still have the whole outside of the TV stand to do. Oh, damn. That's another thing I need to grab from Home Depot, some more gloves. Yeah, all these are ripping almost immediately. Razor blade. Need just a little bit more. All right. Standing portion done. I'll come back and wipe that off in about 15 to 30 minutes. Now let's head back to the planer and get these pieces milled up for the doors. Let's see. How does it look? Work. Let's see. That is about an inch thick. And that was about an inch and 1/16. And I want to end up with no less than 3/4, ideally 7/8. So all of the L's are thicker. All right, let's see how these look on the cabinet. These should just about be flush when resting up against that divider, which that is exactly what we want. Perfection. All right. So now I can actually glue up these door panels. After these dry, they can get cut to the proper lengths, but these will end up being the doors for this cabinet. Let me clear this a little bit more space. Turn that like so. And that will give me enough room for these glue ups. I don't think these shorter clamps will be long enough. I do have two of the red ones that are. Could be pretty greedy, but I'm gonna try to do both of these doors in one glue up because there's only two seams I need to even hit with glue. Could be greedy strictly because it'd be harder to keep flat. The one thing I need to keep in mind is the orientation of all the panels. This one is RD1, 2, and 3. This is the right hand door. If I'm looking at the cabinet, so when I wrote it, this side goes that way. And then RD 4 and 5 go like so. And then for the left ones, LD 4 and 5. Then LD 1 through 3. So in theory, I should be able to get a pretty fair, flat panel glue up. So I don't think I need any coals. This glue is pretty straightforward. I can't reach the other side of the clamps. All right. Cabinet doors secured. These just need to dry up. Now, the only thing I can think of I gotta do that I probably could do while I wait for that up there to dry and the clamps and stuff to dry is I have an access door for my parents' crawl space I need to build. And that one is 13 by 26. Let me see if I can get 26-inch rip without bumping into this glue up. Can if I slide stuff down a bit. All right, so I should be free to make all the rips for this access door. It's going to be a fairly simple one. I'm going to be using some leftover AZAC laying around the shop. See, the dimensions are 13 by 26 and a half. This is a 1-inch piece. I think what I'm thinking about doing though is taking two pieces, button them up like so. Oh, you guys can't see that. I'm taking two pieces of AZAC, button them up like so, and then just picture framing around it. Miter picture frame, and then I can put some AZAC 1x trim going up the face of the access door and throw some hinges on it. So all I need to do is rip this to where the overall width is 13 inches. And we're currently sitting at 14 and a half, so I need to take 1.5 inches off of one of these. And then I have a bunch of 5/4 AZAC. That's actually too thick. So if I attach that to the side for the side trim on the outside of the access door. If I went that route, the access door won't close flush up against it, or it won't close flush and actually hit the stops. So what I want to do is probably plane down this 5/4 to make it an inch and 3/4. I mean, to make it 3/4, and then use this for the stop trim and the face frame, picture frame situation. So actually, what I need to do is plane down the sticker stuff first, because then I can do all my ripping and everything else at the same time. So back to the planer. Let me check my phone's percentage. Okay, we're still good. So I probably can make this access door, and then I'll probably call it after that. So I never planed AZAC. Let's see how much of a mess this makes. Where did I just put my headphones? I don't know, but my other ones are up here. Grab me another splash of water. So now all these AZAC pieces are the same thickness. And I cleaned up a bunch of dirt that was on one side of the AZAC. So it actually looked pretty gross. But now it looks clean and brand new and like it's ready to get used. All right. Oh, was I supposed to run this one through that too? All right. Now what I need is two pieces that are going to add up to 13 inches, minus like an eighth. We'll probably do an eighth on each side. So I need something that is 12 and 3/4 total. And this is 7 1/4. So I need 3 5 1/2 inches. That would be that one. That was too short. So I can put these over here. And I need a piece that is 5 1/2 inches. This one is 23 1/2, and I need 23 3/8, so that short piece is perfect. I'll rip my 5 1/2 inch piece out of one of these. And then I can go ahead and make the picture frame to go all the way around it. Let me get my blade back situated. Shoot, where did I put the push stick? I am notorious for misplacing stuff. All right, so now these three pieces are going to make up the perimeter or the trim that's going to sit around the door. These still need to get cut to their final length. But I'm thinking with these being 2 3/8, I can let it overhang. Well, I might go flush because this is a 1/4 inch smaller than the opening. Between hinges and everything else, that's really just clearance. It's 1/8 inch on both sides. So actually, I might cut these to the exact length of my pieces. Let's head over to the miter saw, cut this stuff to length, miter it, and assemble it. Let's see, the opening is 26 and 3/8. And both of these are already 26. And that leaves 3/16 on each side. You really want like an 1/8 inch margin all the way around. I could go with one of the longer pieces, but I'm going to make this one work. So we're going to say 26 is the length of our miters. We'll go 26 and 3/8. These are our two casing pieces, or the two long pieces. And let's see, I went 3/8 overall, over past the overall size. So the overall size of this is 12 and 3/4. So now I'm just going to go 13 with these pieces. So this is at least 26. Oh, this is 23. So I can only get 2 out of that. I need to rip one more piece. Well, I mean, I can only get 1 out of that. I need to rip another piece. All right. I would normally tack this together with my 15 gauge gun. But this will work just fine. I'll make sure my miters are on point. Everything's nice and flush. 1, 2. I'll throw a third one in there for good luck. Not gonna lie, these two pieces being bowed right here are bothering me a little bit. I'm almost thinking about taking some of the skinnier pieces of AZAC and just cutting it to attach across the back. And then I can just push that in and hit that with a few staples. That'll keep the backside nice and flush. Mix that nice and flush. And then I picture frame it. And this will be the access door going into the crawl space. And I'm just going to eyeball those margins. Again, I made this smaller than the actual opening, so I can always come back and trim this with my track saw. Without any issue. And voila, a really quick and easy AZAC access door. It's not super heavy. I'm gonna throw some hinges on it, and because it's made of AZAC, it's gonna last forever. So, quick project for the house while I'm in the middle of taking care of another one. And then I'll rip those pieces of AZAC that are left. Those are gonna end up being the trim around the access door. I'm gonna attach my hinges and one of those latches and stuff on it. And again, whatever I got to do to trim this up to make it sure it fits, I have my track saw. I'll just bring my saw, which is outside, and trim it up however I need to make it fit in the hole. That's done. This is over here drying. I do need to wipe this off. Yeah, but unlike I think the actual hardwood, I think this pretty much absorbed all of that stain. So there isn't really much that's going to come off. You know, I kind of want to go ahead and slide this in there one more time just to see what the black, what the panel and everything else looks like all together. Let's see if I got enough room to do that. I also want to make sure that this French cleat doesn't mess up anything. That's gonna look nice. And so I can show you guys the French cleat and how that's gonna work. And if you guys remember, this has an opposing 45 on it. So when this cleat with this opposing 45, this will get mounted to the wall. So when you drop the cabinet, it rests and mates right there. Pretty much can't go anywhere else because it's gonna slot right into this. So this will make hanging it really easy. This will get screws to the wall. That just gets hung up there. And if you ever want to just throw some screws into this, you can always drive screws to this because you have 1/2-inch plywood, 1/2-inch and 3/4-inch plywood as your backer. So you can get some really long screws to this into the wall if you're hitting studs and anything else. Or again, you can just mount your strip to your wall. And then your TV stand is easy to remove. You just lift up, remove it, drop it back down. So that'll make that quick and easy. Let's see what it looks like from the front. I think we are getting there. By tomorrow, our door panel should be out of clamps. I can trim these up. I should be good to glue this together tomorrow. And then I can start milling up the shelves. I already have the shelf pin holes. They're pre-drilled. So they're probably not showing up on camera. Yeah, they're pre-drilled. I just need to go all the way through with a 1/4-inch bit or whatever size shelf pin pegs I decide to use. I think we're getting there. But yeah, if you guys have enjoyed this stream, definitely let me know down below. Smash that like button. Leave me a comment. Subscribe. And I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Peace.